A citizen is someone who adopts the responsibilities of an ethical being. That's a citizen. We don't talk about that even in schools, and tell people that, look, the meaning in your life is going to be found. It's going to be proportionate to the degree that you take responsibility for positively shaping your experience and the experience of the people around you. And this isn't like be good in some weak, be inoffensive and harmless sense. It's not that at all. It's like, get your spine straight, get your aggression integrated, pick a heavy goal, like a heavy high goal, something you can barely tolerate lifting, and struggle along with it. And that's where you'll find your self-respect. And people know that. It's fun to watch the working class guys respond to this too, because they know this. Most of those guys work like mad, and they know that there's nobility in that. And there is. And so it's well, and people also say, well, that they're happy to come to my lectures or even read the book because I'm helping them find words to express things that they already knew to be true. And those things that they know to be true are the bedrock axioms of our culture. And one of the things we got right in the West was the idea of the sovereign, responsible individual, not the person with rights, and certainly not the person with rights granted to them by the state. That's not part of the English common law tradition. You're the locus of rights, but only in some sense because you're the locus of ultimate responsibility. And I guess part of what I've been trying to tell people is that there's no difference between meaning and responsibility. They're the same thing.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Now, as I looked at that audience, I thought to myself, we're doing a lot of talking about the First World War in this country. 60,000 Australians died out of a very small population in that horrendous event. Every year, Australians turn out in extraordinary numbers, and more young Australians turn out to, if you like, pay tribute to their courage. And as I looked out across that audience, I thought there's a lot of people here that I'd willingly, or I would choose to be with in the trenches. They are essentially people who want to be, to use the word you did just a moment ago, noble to the best of their ability. But they live in a culture somehow that says, no, that's all nonsense, that's not where you ought to go. And it seemed to me that they're deeply resenting and deeply keen to reject that approach.
Our culture has problems, every culture does. And it needs everyone has to be awake so that we don't slip at every level of our social being into something like a blind authoritarianism. But the way that happens is by waking up and taking responsibility once again for yourself and your family and your community. And that's noble, which is a word you never hear. It's like a human being has to be a noble creature to withstand the tragedy of existence without becoming corrupt. And so and that call is to the best in people.
Okay, well, let's tease this out a little bit more. Wisdom, you've mentioned. The difference between, if you like, knowledge and accumulated cleverness and what have you, and wisdom. Surely there's a difference, because to go back again to Chatswood, I would say a good chunk of the people there were not university educated, but they were smart. And I would say I'd say more, they were wise.
They were striving for wisdom, and that's where wisdom is. Wisdom is in the striving for wisdom. And right. Wisdom is how to act. Wisdom isn't a collection of facts. Wisdom is knowledge of how to conduct yourself in the world. So it's an action, it's an existential issue. It's truth as revealed in action. That's wisdom.
Wisdom also understands consequences.
Well, it's sophisticated in its understanding of consequences, because you think, well, what are the consequences? And the answer is, well, there's the consequences for you now, and for you next week and next month and 5 years from now. So the consequences are you and future you. So that's an iterated game. But the consequences are also for your family now and in the future, and for your community now and in the future. And wisdom is the ability to consider all of those consequences as part of what guides your vision and your operations in the world. And that's character. And then nobility of character is to take all of those things into account simultaneously.
When young people have, if you like, grounded themselves and feel ready to act nobly in the public square, what should they do? How can they make a difference? They want to make a difference. How do they go about it?
Oh, more power to them, I think. But I think, they start by realizing they don't know anything and by starting to learn. And if they learn and work and discipline themselves, the opportunities to expand will come naturally because people will notice them. Like, look, if you work with competent people, hyper competent people, one of the things you learn is that hyper competent people are always looking for young people to mentor.
Yeah.
They're starving and hoping that someone will come along who has a lot of potential, and then what they'll do is offer them an opportunity. And I keep my eye out at the university and in my private work as well, all the time for young people who've got something to contribute. Say, oh, you look like you're sharp. Let's find out. Here's a task. Why don't you go try this? And then they come back and knock it out of the park, and you think, oh, that's good because I got 20 more things here that need doing that I can't do. I've got more opportunities than I know what to do with. Here's another one. And so the thing is that if you develop your competence and you discipline yourself and you start to make that manifest in any hierarchy that's even vaguely competent, you'll have more opportunities come your way than you'll know what to do with. So it'll happen organically. So, and it is the way of the world. And well, if that isn't happening in the organization that you're working with and you're working diligently and you have your act together, then it's time to find a different organization. The whole point of education, apart from the technical end, which is important, is to produce a noble citizen. That's the point, not to produce a bloody political activist.
Well, and we should keep in mind, though, of course, even the Chatswood that night, a lot of those people, most of them, are not at university. So they're not excluded either from, in any way, shape or form, from broadening their horizon.
It's not like they're not doing important things. Like working men, for example, working people in general, I don't care what they're doing. If they're working at a diner as a waiter, or they're laying bricks, or working a forklift, or they're plumbers, or these people are bloody important. They build the infrastructure. And there's a huge difference between a craftsman who takes pride and care in what he's doing and contributes to his family and the community in that nobility of work, and someone who does a slipshod and haphazard job. There's great nobility in genuine work. So, and I believe that you have just as much power, let's say, as much authority, as much clout as a forthright and honest working person as you do as an intellectual. And I mean, you can be very successful as a working person if you're diligent and honest and committed and competent and aiming up. Because look, I do believe that each person is a center of the world, and you have what you need right at that center. And maybe you're not intellectual, but you're good with your hands and you're practical and solid, and people can rely on you. It's like, man, that's a big deal, because then when their roof blows off in the middle of a storm, they can call you up and you're there in an hour and you put the damn thing back together, and hooray for you. All of these things are important. And so there's great nobility in working class work as far as I'm concerned.